I forgot to hit go live on. People have been waiting for me for like 20 minutes on YouTube and on Facebook and on LinkedIn, and I forgot to hit go live. I'm live here, obviously, on Instagram. So here's what I'm going to do. I am going to thinking on the spot. So we've just spent the last 20 minutes going over. This is okay. We just spent the last 20 minutes going over point number 1 on what happens when you decide to step into action, that bam, something unexpected is going to happen. And guess what? Bam. I did not hit go live on the 3 channels I was going to be talking on. So this is exactly the perfect point about how things, bam, something unexpected will happen and get in the way of you doing what you were set out to do. So we were just talking about the devil attacking you and all this stuff that happens. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to say goodbye on Instagram, and I'm going to kind of do a redo. And we're running a little late, so we'll see what happens. We're going to try to do a redo, but this is just so perfect based on this point. So those of you who are waiting 20 minutes, I thought I was actually talking to you this whole time, and I wasn't. All right, so I'm going to say goodbye on Instagram, and I'm going to finish this on the Facebook group and YouTube and LinkedIn. Okay, so join me there if you want a little refresher of what we just talked about, as well as hearing what the other 3 points are. All right, I'm going to stop this live. Oh, I just love this. Okay, discard. All right. All right, so we're doing a little redo. I thought I was talking to you guys this whole time, and apparently I wasn't. But we're going to start over, because sometimes that's what happens. So what we're talking about today is 4 things you need to be aware of when you are working on your goals. Before you start out to do the thing that's in your heart that God wants you to do, there's 4 things that are going to be happening, and you have to be prepared for that, or you're going to get thrown off. So let's hop into that right away, right now. So can somebody say in the comments on YouTube or Facebook if you can actually see me now? Okay, you're saying hi, so maybe I'm actually live now, even though I thought I was the last 20 minutes. Okay, perfect. I'm back. Some of you are joining me again on Instagram. You're going to hear a repeat because that's just the way it's going today. So point number 1, 4 things you need to know or be aware of before you actually start working on your goals. And we're going to be talking about that right now. Number 1, which just happened now, the moment you decide to step into action, bam, something unexpected is going to get in the way. Here's what it might look like for you. Monday, I'm going on a diet. Your coworkers bring your favorite donuts to work, or your boss decides to take everyone out to In-N-Out Burger and pay for it on the very day you're planning to do a juice cleanse. Or you finally decide, I'm cleaning out my garage after it's been on your to-do list for 6 years. But then a friend comes by and they need your help that same weekend. Or you're finally going to organize all the files on your hard drive that you've been saying you were going to do for the last however many years, but instead you're stuck in ER because your child stuck something up their nose and you're now waiting for the doctor to pull it out. Okay, so the moment you decide to make a decision to step into action, bam, something is going to happen to you. Okay, disruption can be a sign. Oh, good. You guys are saying I can see you now. Disruption can be a sign that you're actually headed in the right direction, not the wrong direction. For those of you who are on my live a few weeks ago, I read a poem called When the Devil Leaves You Alone. Sometimes that shows you're on the right path if things are bad or happening, because you know the attacks are coming, trying to stop you. When things are smooth sailing, sometimes that means you're not going the right direction. So be tuned into God, be prayerful. Things will happen or not happen, And you could be under attack when you finally make the commitment to do something good or worthy. So what do I mean by not happen? Well, let's look at Daniel chapter 10. He prayed to God sincerely for help, but nothing happened for 3 weeks. Finally, an angel came and told Daniel, God heard your prayer since the very first day, and he decided that you decided to humble yourself and gain understanding. Well, there's a key point. When you've prayed, have you humbled yourself and gained understanding? The prayers, God says he hears our prayer the moment we pray it. But sometimes, well, here we have the angel, the prince of the kingdom of Persia, opposing him for 21 days, the angel saying. He was being opposed by the evil forces. So this is why it's important that even after you pray for the thing, that you also pray against the attacks that may be coming against you. Okay, so my friend Mel Novak, he's a preacher, actor. He's got a street ministry, a homeless ministry, and a prison ministry. Anyway, he's got a great prayer called the Arsenal Prayer that kind of you pray it each day against like the attacks that might come. But he also has something called an after ministry prayer, and that you pray to bind up and come against a myriad of attacks, forces or demons that could try to stand in the way of you accomplishing your God-given dreams, especially after you've done good, you've ministered to people. The devil comes to attack you to try to snatch away the things you've done. And one of the things in that prayer that struck me is he always talked about praying against resistance, hindrance, and delay. Now, in the past, when something hasn't happened or wasn't happening with my dreams or something I prayed for or my goals, or it was taking way too long, I would just sit back like many of us do and say, well, I guess it's just not God's timing. I guess it's not going to happen right now. God knows a better time for it to happen. But sometimes it's the enemy forces coming against you, trying to thwart you. Sometimes it's not because God's withholding it from you, but he's needing you to press back against the powers that are trying to keep your destiny from you. Okay, so what might this look like if you were going to press back? If you were going to press back, are you in the word daily? Do you know your authority? No, the devil doesn't know. He's trying to stop you, but he really can't. And so you can't just lay down and wait until you die. You've got to press forward. You got to know your authority, know what the word says, so you can declare, just like Jesus did. Declare the end from the beginning. You are to say how it's going to go. You are to say how it's going to go down. You don't say what's happening. You say what you want to have happen. So if you get in a car wreck and you don't have a car, you don't say, I don't have a car anymore. I guess I can't get to work. You don't say what the thing is that has happened. You say what you want to have happen. God, I don't know why this happened, but I trust you. I trust you will find a way. You'll make a way. You'll find me a way to get to work. You're going to get me an even better car. You start speaking what you want to have happen, not what just did happen. Okay. Another thing, are you exercising your faith? How do you know if you're exercising your faith? Well, you're not pouting that it hasn't happened. You're not thinking, gosh, maybe it won't. You're not bringing any doubt into it. By exercising your faith, you have to joyfully expect a positive outcome and look for it. Just like Daniel went out every day looking for the rain, even though it hadn't rained in a couple years. Another thing you got to be doing is squashing, ripping out the weeds of doubt. When those weeds creep in to choke that seed that you have growing. This is something we saw Jesus demonstrate in Matthew chapter 9. A certain ruler came to him in faith and worshiping and saying, my daughter is dead, but if you come and lay hands on her, I know she will live. Well, Jesus goes to this ruler's house. All the people were making noise and crying and screaming and mourning over the dead girl. And Jesus said to them, the maid is not dead, she's sleeping. Well, they all laughed at him. They were laughed. It said, the Bible says they laughed him to scorn. So they made such a big deal out of him saying that she's not dead. She's just sleeping. And do you know what Jesus did? Something we all need to do. I just need to give an acknowledgement to Whale Shark on YouTube, who just sent me a super sticker. Thank you for the gift. I really appreciate it. Here's what Jesus did. Those doubters who were laughing at him, he kicked them out of the house. He took the girl by the hand and said, "Maid, arise." And she got back up. Listen, he didn't do the miracle until he kicked the negative people out of the house. Does that apply to you? Is there some people you need to kick out of the house, kick out of your life, kick out of your dreams, kick out of your business? I don't know. You're going to have to pray about that. You're going to have to pray about who you need to kick out of your life, who has no faith or no belief in you and is constantly planting seeds of negativity and doubt in your life. Who is it in your life that's planting these seeds of doubt, constantly telling you all the reasons why it will never happen? Miss Mary brings up Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. They used to laugh at him and call him names. Yes, they did. They did not believe in his gift. So, good example for this time of year. The Bible tells us Jesus did not do many mighty works in his hometown because of their unbelief. So sometimes you got to get away from the people around you in order to fulfill your potential. And when someone doesn't receive you, that could be your gifts, your talents, your dreams, what you're about, you've got to remember. Matthew 10:14 says, "And anyone who will not receive you or listen to your words, shake the dust off your feet when you leave that town." Whale Shark, you sent me another super sticker gift for $10. I appreciate you. Thank you for the gift. I'm going to get some gas in my tank now. What do you need to shake off you? What dust do you need to shake off you if someone doesn't receive you? You know what that tells me? When I see that and it says, shake the dust off your feet, like if someone doesn't receive you, it's not just like you leave and go, well, they don't like me. You don't take a single thing, a speck of dust, a comment, a negative word they have spoken over you in your dream. You don't take it with you. Because when you get on your journey, you're going towards your God-given dreams and your purpose and your destiny, and you're running into hard times. You don't need to be rehearsing in your mind all the negative things that people have said to you. All the negative, you know, when you hit a hard time, and then you're remembering that those dust, the particles of dust, you're remembering, oh, so-and-so said this was going to happen. So-and-so said it wasn't going to work out for me. So-and-so said, you're remembering all those little negative dust particles that you've breathed them in. They're in your lungs, they're in your mind, they're taking up space. You got to shake that dust off your feet and not side with the people who don't want you to have it happen. Listen, they do not understand why you keep pushing past the limit. They tell you it's okay to quit. You don't have to win it. But when it looks like all is lost, they won't believe their eyes as you emerge from heaps of ash and like a phoenix rise. When everyone assumes you're dead and they turn to retreat, you'll soar above them all because you won't accept defeat. What is it that you're doing? Are you accepting defeat, or are you rising above all the naysayers they just left you? They're like, they're never going to make it. They're never going to become anything. And are you actively, this is the fourth part of this. The moment you decide to step into action, bam, something unexpected gets in the way. Are you actively running towards the things that are trying to take you down and threaten you, or are you running away? When the prophet Elijah was threatened by Queen Jezebel, he ran away scared and he wanted to die. When Goliath threatened David, he did the opposite. When Goliath threatened David, David ran towards Goliath. He didn't run away and hide scared like Elijah. He ran towards Goliath and he said, "You uncircumcised Philistine, you're going down." Are you being overcome by the attacks, or are you pressing back against them? Whale Shark, you're just so generous today. You sent me another $20 super sticker. God bless you. May he give you 100-fold return on your gift. Okay, are you pressing back and going after that thing that's trying to take you down, or are you running away scared? Listen, greater is he that is in you than he that is in the world. The moment you decide to step into action, bam, something unexpected will happen. Look at Moses. He tried to get his people out of slavery, that they were in slavery for 400 years. They were being chased down by Pharaoh's large chariot army, and in front of them is a sea. They thought, okay, well, we're either going to drown or we're going to be slaughtered by this army. But that didn't happen, did it? Sometimes when we're under a major attack and we get over it, like they got through that Red Sea, they didn't drown, they didn't get killed. Sometimes when we get through a major attack, we go, all right, God, everything is going to be good now. We're just like going to sail to our destiny. Everything's going to be perfect. But no. They had to walk through the wilderness for 40 years. Well, technically, they wouldn't have had to walk that long if they were in faith and not complaining, but that's a whole nother teaching. But the point is, not everything is going to go smooth from here on out. I'm sorry, but I have to remind you of this so you don't get discouraged, because the moment you decide to step out in faith, bam, something is going to happen. Derek, thank you so much for the super sticker. Thank you for the gift. I appreciate you. Okay, so here's why I say something else might still happen. You think you overcame it all, and then bam, here comes this other thing. So even after David defeated Goliath, he did what happened? Now the king's against him. King Saul is now after him. Listen, David did everything right. Well, at this point in his life. This is before the whole adultery and murder thing. Okay, so he defeated Goliath, and now he's doing his best to serve the King Saul. And Goliath was huge, yes, but in reality, he was just a giant in an army, just a giant. David's next foe was the king of the entire country. You imagine for yourself having the king or the president of your country that you live in trying to have you killed, and all his Secret Service agents are attempting to hunt you down. But here's the thing. Goliath is what prepared him to face King Saul. But here's the thing before that. Being a lowly shepherd and having to defend the sheep from the lions and the tigers and the bears, oh my, that's what prepared him for Goliath. So when you are coming up against what seems to be your biggest enemy you've ever faced, and you're shaking in your boots, wanting to run and hide, you have got to remind yourself that you have been preparing yourself your whole life for this. You've been preparing yourself your whole life for what you are about to face, and that you were made for such a time as this. Listen, God would never take you this far just to leave you. That should bring some of you hope and joy and peace, knowing God would never take you this far just to leave you here. So sometimes you have to remind yourself. 1 John 4:4 says, "Ye are of God, my little children, and you have overcome them. Greater is he that is in you than he that is in the world." And Isaiah 54:17 says, "No weapon formed against you shall prosper, and every lying tongue that rises against you in judgment shall be condemned." This is the heritage of the servants of the Lord. Listen, you winning and you overcoming is your birthright. It's your birthright. It's what you were made to do. Nicola, thank you so much for the gift. You guys have been so generous today. I appreciate it. I appreciate your donations. Okay. Wow. So talking about how David overcame the lions and the bears and then the Goliaths, and now he's facing Saul. But let me just segue for a minute out of David's story and Saul's story. There was a time when Elisha, not Elijah, who ran from Jezebel, but Elisha and his servant, they got up one day and they looked outside, and there were troops and horses and chariots everywhere that were coming to like attack them and take them down. And Elisha, his servant, says, "What are we going to do now?" He cried out. And Elisha said, "Don't be afraid, for there are more on our side than on theirs." And his servants look at him like, "I don't know what you're talking about, but I only see you and me and that big army out there about to come get us." And so Elisha prayed to the Lord, "Open his eyes and let him see." And the Lord opened the young man's eyes. And when he looked up, he saw the entire hillside around Elisha was filled with horses and chariots on fire. Blake is saying, "Will you read a poem from your Hollywood book, please?" I have a snippet of one coming up that fits into this lesson, so stay tuned for that. He opened up his eyes and he saw horses and chariots of fire. These are angels of the Lord that were everywhere to protect them. And sometimes you and I just need our spiritual eyes to be opened. We need to know that there's more people with us, warring angels sent to protect us, than our enemies coming against us, than our bill collectors coming against us, than that person that's trying to sue us, than that person that's trying to ruin our reputation, than that person that's trying to take us down. Whatever the attack is, there's more forces with you than there are against you. Remember, when Satan was kicked out of heaven, he took 1/3 of the angels with him. But guess what? 2/3 of them stayed. I'm going to continue on my little tangent here and just say, Satan is not equal with God. I know some of you guys see cartoons and there's an angel on like one shoulder and a devil on one shoulder or whatever. Yes, angels and devils, okay. They were both created by God. But remember, Satan was an angel created by God. There's nobody like God. There is no one bigger, no one more powerful, no one all-knowing. God was and is and always will be. So it's not the devil against God, because the devil can't stand ground. Okay, so you need to know that. When God is for you, who can be against you? The scripture says, nobody, nothing, no principality, no demon, no power of the air, not even death can be against you if God is for you, because you will go on living forever and ever in eternity in paradise if you have said yes to God, if you have said yes to Jesus. Okay, back to David. David had to run and hide from the king he was serving. He served him honorably. And simply because David was doing his best to honor and give and live valiantly, Saul was jealous. That king was so jealous of David because the people liked him better. Some people are going to be so jealous of you and are going to come after you and attack you, and you have done nothing wrong. When you are trying to live honorably and do your best, the moment you decide to step into action, spam, something unexpected is going to come. That very person you were trying to help may attack you. Has that happened to you? You go out of your way to help someone. You make sacrifices for them. You bend over backwards. You provide for them, and they insult you. They speak poorly of you. They speak behind your back. Listen, this happened to me 3 times in the last 3 years. I help people with money, with things, with roof over their heads. I got them their first paid acting jobs and much, much, much more. I'm not even going to talk about all the things I did. They came against me. They spoke bad things about me. They slandered my name. Look at the Apostle Paul. He started to do the right thing. Instead of having Christians killed like he had been, he started preaching Christ everywhere. Did something unexpected get in the way when he decided to take action? Did something bam happen? Yes, many times. And in one of those incidents, when he was out doing his God job, he was falsely accused of bringing Gentiles into the synagogue. Listen, Gentiles were not allowed to go in the Jewish synagogue at this point in time. So he was falsely accused of doing that. And even though the governor did not believe Paul was guilty, he kept him in prison for 2 years, hoping that someone would like bribe him to release Paul. That's kind of weird. We could talk about that. Like, what? Okay, well, so he's in prison, and Paul was transferred to Rome and placed under house arrest for another 2 years. Well, during this time, that's the bam, right? He's in prison, and then so now it's like 4 years. He's in prison and house arrest for stepping into action, actively preaching the word of God to everybody who visited him. The moment he decided to step into action, bam, something got in the way. Now, even though it would have been safer for Paul to prioritize himself and stay quiet, Paul focused on bringing people to God even while he was imprisoned. Can you focus on doing the things God wants you to do, even while you're under attack, even while you're in prison, even while things are not working out for you? Listen, don't be surprised the moment you step into action, bam, something unexpected will happen and get in the way. But don't let that mean that you're doing the wrong thing, okay? So it could be that the enemy is attacking you and trying to stop you before you make that big difference. Listen, it's easier to stop a snowball when it's barely getting started and it's tiny than when it's been rolling down a big snowy hill for a long time. And it's easier for your enemies to pluck the seeds which you've planted before they start to sprout, before the roots have gotten down in deep, which is why it's also important for you not to share sometimes your dreams with just any old person. There are dream thieves out there and dream killers, and not everyone in your life is qualified to hear your dreams, to hear your goals. Some will try to talk you out of it based on their fears and their worries because they don't believe it can be done. But if God put a dream in your heart, you cannot afford to listen to anyone. All right. Second point. Point number 2 on the 4 things you need to be aware of before you start working on your goals is you get to keep everything you fight for. You may have had all kinds of things come against you, trying to stop you. Things where you feel like you're not good at, you got inadequacies. But if you fight for your inadequacies, if you fight for the things that limit you, you will stay stuck in them. So let me give you an example from my own life. Now, I'm pretty good at expressing myself as an actor and speaker. At least I'm getting better. But when it comes to expressing myself in the written form, I'm not so good when it comes to grammar. You know, like how do you know when to use a semicolon versus a comma? Or yeah. It's an inadequacy for me. And I had a writing partner once. We were working on this TV show, and he was always using these big words, and I did not know what they meant. And I would ask him, can you please like explain yourself with smaller, simpler words? At one point, he got so mad at me. He walked out of the coffee shop where we were meeting at every week to write, and he quit the project. And he said, you don't even know how to form a sentence. Well, that's an example of dust I should have shaken off my feet when I kept going. But I dwelled on that. You can't even form a sentence for 7 or 8 years. And I let it stop me from putting out my first book, even though God had been talking to me about it for years. Then the editor to my first poetry book, when I did a couple more after that, she said, you know what, Katherine, don't even use punctuation because you don't understand where it goes. Let me just put the punctuation in for you. You just write the words. She said she had a hard time understanding what I was trying to express because I didn't know like where to put the punctuation. So those are little things that I was rehearsing in my mind and letting stop me from writing more, even though writing is a huge passion of mine. But I kept thinking about those things people said, rehearsing them in my mind and letting them stop me from writing more, even though I knew God had called me to write more. Writing was the thing God put in my heart to do. All right. So I had another friend. I have so many examples from this. I'm just going to just say this last one. I had another friend so frustrated with my ability to use proper grammar. She sent me this course to buy on Great American Courses called How to Do Grammar or whatever it was. I bought the course, yet I have never looked at it because I decided, you get to keep everything you fight for. I decided I wasn't going to fight for my inadequacies. I wasn't going to stop writing and putting out the messages I had just because I maybe didn't know proper sentence structure, when to put the comma, whatever. I have long run-on sentences because guess what? I have editors and they know how to break up my long sentence into 2 sentences. I'm just letting you guys know where I'm terrible, but I'm not going to fight for that terribleness and let it stop me. I'm not going to fight for my inadequacies anymore that could potentially hold me back. And one of those things is other people's opinions of me. My friend had the gall to tell me, please do not write another book until you've learned grammar. Guess what I've written 2 since she told me that? Shh, don't tell her. Shh. I haven't released them yet, but I've written 2 more and I didn't bother to take that course she told me to take. Okay. So she was so frustrated with me one day. She was like, I can't believe you don't even know what a cardinal number is. Guess what? I still don't. Do you guys know what a cardinal number is? I don't even know because I never bothered to look it up. Here's the thing. What's important to other people, even if they're in the same industry as you, may not be important to you. Because this friend of mine went to school and got a degree, like a master's degree in writing. She got multiple degrees. I didn't go to school for writing. I don't even know the rules I'm breaking. So when I write something, I'm like, ooh, this is good. But someone who went to school for that and knows all the stuff, they can only see what's wrong with it. They are fighting for my inadequacies. But I'm not going to fight for my inadequacies anymore. I'm not going to fight for all the things I'm doing wrong. And neither should you. Okay? Get busy doing your Father's business. Get busy going after your goals. Maybe I didn't learn grammar because I was so busy skipping school or not paying attention in class that I didn't learn some of the basic stuff. But I'm not going to let that stop me. Okay? So now I just need to say this so you don't misunderstand me that I'm saying put out junk. Okay, I'm not saying that. It's important to learn and improve. And there's a time and a place to improve your craft. 2 Timothy 2:15 says, study to show yourself approved, a workman that needeth not be ashamed, rightly dividing the word in truth. So study means be diligent, be quiet, do the work. Why be quiet? Because in all labor there is profit. In other words, don't just talk about the work you want to do the work. Scripture talks about, I think this is in Proverbs. It says, talk of the lips leads only to penury. Am I saying that right? Penury. Oh, thank you. Someone in my Facebook group said, God bless you abundantly. Penury means extreme poverty. So we need to stop talking. Talk of the lips leads to extreme poverty. And we need to get to work and not let our inadequacy stop us, because letting your inadequacy stop you, you get to keep that. You don't want to fight for that and keep it. You want to be diligent to present yourself to God in a way that's pleasing to him and not be ashamed. Not be ashamed at yourself and how you are in the world and the witness you're giving off, and not be ashamed of the work you've been called to do. Do it to the best of your abilities. We don't just want to put some slop out into the world that's unintelligible and think just because we understand our story that others are going to understand our story. We have to hone our crafts and get better and better. But you also need to find a balance. For me, I realized that certain aspects that I wanted to get better at were not necessarily knowing where to put a period, a comma, or a semicolon. I wanted to get better. And we have well-meaning friends that are going to point out all the things we're doing wrong. And, there's a time and a place to take critique and listen to it. But if it's stopping you, here's the thing, if it's stopping you from doing the things God has called you to do, that's something you can't fight for. Okay? So though my friends were well-meaning and they're wanting me to learn grammar at the proficiency that they have it, and say don't put out another book until you do. But here's the thing, you can't learn everything you need to learn in life. We're not meant to know it all, to do it all, to be it all. God wants us to have unity. He wants us to form partnerships, and there's no shame in me hiring an editor to put my punctuation in the right place, just like there's no shame in hiring a lawyer. You know, you don't want to represent yourself. You don't want to, someone that went to school for 8-10 years to learn something, you think you're going to try to learn it because you can't, you know what I'm saying? So after I've written a story, a book, or a poem, I send it to an editor and they fix it. This key point is about getting to keep everything you fight for. So I decided instead to press into the parts of writing that I did love, the parts I was good at and could learn to do even better, like when I write poetry, the imagery, the sounds, the words, finding cool rhymes. I could do that part of the writing without getting frustrated. And then I hire an editor who loves grammar, like my friend who loves knowing where to put the punctuation, who understands sentence structure. And this editor I have, they understand how I express myself, and they will move the comma to the right place it needs to be. And sometimes they'll tell me, like, here's why I did it here, and here's why not, and here's when to use the word with and when to use against and why. You know, and I could have let my desire to write been squashed multiple times by multiple instances of more people than I've even named, including rejection letters from agents and publishers. And sometimes we only need one of those to give up. Some people, they get one rejection, they're like, I guess it was never meant to be. But because I didn't give up, I have 5 books, okay? So whatever your inadequacies are that are currently stopping you, you need to make a choice. You either learn that thing that's standing in the way of you pursuing your passions, or you hire someone who knows how to do the right thing. I chose the latter. I chose not to get bogged down taking weeks worth of courses on grammar and punctuation just because some people want to set aside the time to learn it. It didn't float my boat. And I felt like it would sink me if I took that much time and effort, energy, that it would just, I just couldn't do it. So there's no shame. There's no shame in wanting to pay someone to fix your grammar before you send it out. Just like you hire an accountant. You don't do your own taxes. Most people don't change their whole oil. They go to a mechanic. We have people in our lives who do all of these things. So don't feel bad about getting help for the areas you lack, and don't fight to keep your inadequacies to stop you. Okay, what is the third thing that you need to be aware of before you start working on your goals? All right, no one wants to hear this, but you'll probably be terrible at first. Did you guys want to hear that? You're going to start something and you're going to probably be pretty bad at it at first. It's okay. I know no one wants to hear that. But when I say it, part of you guys, you know, deep down, that's probably a little bit true. You're not going to be Michael Jordan or Kobe Bryant the first time you step onto a basketball court. What you may not realize is how long you have to practice and be consistent before you really master your craft. Now, I've heard stories about, you know, I don't know how valid they are, but I've heard stories about like Kobe getting to practice sometimes hours before his teammates. And they've been like traveling for games and they're staying in hotels, and the other guys are out partying all night, and he's like getting his rest and getting up early to practice. And I heard this story, but one time it was like 4 or 5 in the morning, and he was coming down the elevator all in his workout clothes with his basketball, ready to go to practice. And the other guys are just stumbling in from the club at that time of night, ready to go to bed. And they're laughing at him and making fun of him that he was going to practice while they're just getting back. Well, just because you're not good at something when you start doesn't mean you won't be when you finish. A lot of it has to do with how much effort you put into something. So I want to show you guys a video that will just drive this point home. Let me see if I can share my screen. I know those of you on Instagram won't be able to see this video, but bear with me. Let me see if I can do this. Select a tab. How do I do this? Stop cam. Well, I'm going to try to show you a video. All right. It worked when I practiced this morning. Is it going to work now? Share screen. Window. Okay. Let's see if this works. All right. You got, look at my screen. I don't think I did that right. Okay, let's try again. When at first you don't succeed, try again. Okay, we're going to try this again. Share screen. Entire screen. I'm going to share my entire screen. Let's see what this looks like. Can you guys see my screen? Can you guys see? Let's see, unlock the screen. Oh, it's not letting me unlock it. All right, I'm going to try a third time. Third time's a charm, right? Share my window. Let's see if this works. Share. Can you guys see the window I'm sharing? Let me look at your comments. Let me know if you guys can see some of my YouTube or Facebook people. And I can just turn my phone to let you guys on Instagram see. Okay, good. Yes, you can see. All right. So I'm going to pull up this video. Okay. For some reason, I wasn't able to get the sound to work. So I'm just going to read what the guy was saying as he was doing this video. So I found this on YouTube, and I did a terrible job recording it. But here we go. I'm not fighting for my inadequacies of not knowing how to record this. I'm going to show you anyway, and I'll just narrate what he's saying. Okay, so here's this guy. He made this video about trying to jump across the street. He said, my first day jumping across the road, I almost had it. Second week, I got even closer. 2 months came, even closer than the first 2 times. 6 months came, I missed it by a literal inch. 1 year came, and I finally got it. Greatness doesn't come overnight. It takes time, and a lot can change in a year, so never give up. Okay. Was that worth it? Did you guys see that? Okay, was that encouraging? To me, it was encouraging when I saw that. This guy trying to jump across the street, and it seems like an impossible thing. Some of you guys have impossible dreams, and it seems like, well, this is never going to happen. But you keep trying, and you keep trying, and you keep practicing. Just because you're not good at something when you start doesn't mean you won't be when you finish. You got to put in the reps. You got to, put in the reps and keep going. In the beginning, you're going to be terrible at first. But here's the thing. When your desire to do the thing, when you allow it to outweigh your current ability, you put that practice in, you got to let that desire you have push you to the next level. So my friend Tim, late friend Tim, God rest his soul, he passed away. He was driving cabs in New York before he became an actor and a teacher and ran the Riverside Shakespeare Company in New York. But he was driving cab, and he had a famous, any of you who are in the acting world will know who this person is, in his car. And he was a famous playwright and acting teacher. And he had a guy in his class named Bill. And this guy in the cab, who you would know, was talking about, they got this guy in class, and his name is Bill, and he is the worst actor I have ever seen. He's terrible. I don't know how to have the heart to tell him that, like, he stinks. He just needs to pack it up and go. I think I'm going to have to tell him, like, this is not the business for you. You are not cut out for this. You are the most terrible actor I have ever seen. But Bill had so much desire to be an actor, and he worked and he worked and he worked and he worked. And you know what? Bill became William H. Macy. For those of you who don't know who that is, he's an American actor, director, and screenwriter who has received various awards and nominations, including 2 Primetime Emmy Awards, 4 Screen Actors Guild Awards, an Academy Award Oscar nomination, and 5 nominations for Golden Globe Awards. If he had listened to his teacher that told him he's the worst actor he had ever seen, we wouldn't know who he was. He wouldn't have contributed the beautiful films and stories and amazing acting work to this world if he hadn't shaken that dust off his feet and kept going. So don't be fooled into believing that just because you can't do it now that you'll never be able to do it. You're probably going to be terrible at first. Let me demonstrate how terrible I was at writing poetry. I was like debating on whether I should show you this or not. This is pretty embarrassing. So I had to write a few hundred bad poems before I could write a good poem. So here's one I wrote when I was just a little teenager in the 90s. It's called Don't Leave Me. Here's one of my terrible poems. I love you and I don't want you to go. I've never told you. It's hard for me to show. I love you so very much when I feel your warm touch. Just the thought of you leaving makes me begin grieving. It's time to start over now that you're gone. I wake up each morning and I see the dawn. I stare and stare at the stars in the sky and wonder to myself, why? Oh, why? Is that the most terrible poem you've ever heard? I think I have some that stink worse than that, but that was that was one of my early on poems. Okay. So that's why I'm telling you, you'll probably be terrible at first. You got to know that. You're not going to hit a home run every time you go up to bat. All right. Now, a lot of people are asking, what should I do with my life? I'm interested in all these things. So I just want to tell you on that note, if you don't even know what to begin to be terrible at, just pick something that you know, even if it took you years and years to perfect and do, that you would still want to be doing it, that you would be in it for the long haul. And if you stop liking it, don't be afraid to shift into something else when you feel the Lord leading you to do so. Don't be afraid to shift and change. Some of you know I was going at the acting game full force for over 20 years. And then I was like, this is kind of like, I'm kind of getting a little bored of this. And I started shifting into life coaching and speaking and teaching and making courses. And I actually, some aspects of it, I enjoy more than the acting. I'm still doing both. But I could see myself maybe someday just being like a full-time speaker on the road, teaching, and maybe only acting here and there when a part comes to me and not like grinding every week at auditions, So there's, what is it for you? So I'm still acting, I'm still writing, but here's what I'm not doing anymore. I'm not selling Mary Kay Cosmetics anymore. I'm not trading in the stock market anymore. I'm not working at the pizza place or the dry cleaners or parking cars anymore or working in the factory. Those were not long-term plays. You must choose something that you would actually fight for, right? That's back to point number 2. It's okay with being terrible at first, because sometimes we have these half-baked plans and we see other people do it and they're such a success at it. And some things we do might just be a means to an end, but people who are good at it, they make it look like it's so easy and anyone can do it. Like that's some actors I know. They realize this is harder than it looked. Maybe I'm not up for this. And it's okay to change and shift dreams and realize, Nira said that poem wasn't that bad. That's funny. I thought it was pretty stinky. All right. Here's something I thought I was going to do. I tried to be a stock market investor. I spent thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars in classes and training. I even paid 10 grand just for someone to sit with me for a weekend to show me how to do certain complicated trades. It was awful. It was awful. Listen, I just wanted to write poetry. I just wanted money to buy me freedom so I could write poetry. I thought, stock market is a way to get money, but it was slowly killing my soul. So you guys are going to have to pick something that you actually enjoy doing. That's not going to feel like torture. So it can't just be a way to make money. You got to do something you enjoy. And just because I saw other people in the stock market doing it with ease and raking in thousands of dollars per day, it was not easy for me. I was having to get up at 6 a.m. because the stock market's open at 6:30 each day. a.m. California time to look at the charts and the candlesticks to know when to get in and when to get out. And I didn't have a big enough portfolio. And whenever I did make a trade, it was getting eaten up by the fees to get in and out. And it wasn't for me. So you guys need to know what it is for you. Acknowledge that whatever goals and passions you decide to pursue in your life, that it's going to be worth it and you're going to stick with it. You got to stick with doing what you love. Put on clean clothes, honey. I know. Put on a clean shirt, or please. You got to be able to know it's something that you would want to stick with. You got to love it. It's got to bring you joy. Even if it, here's the thing. And this is where a lot of people get stuck and they throw away their dreams. If it brings you joy, it may not necessarily look like everyone else's version of success. I know people that move to Hollywood to pursue a career, and because they didn't end up having the movie star life, they thought that they weren't a success. But everyone's version of success is different, okay? They thought they were going to become movie stars, but realized that pursuit of trying to become a movie star killed all the joy they had of what they actually liked about acting to begin with. It took the pleasure out of it, the pursuit. They later moved back home to their small town, and now they're just doing regional plays, and they're happy again. They've got that joy. It didn't look like okay, honey, can you have Dad help you get ready? I'm on a live stream right now. Close my office door, please. Don't let what you're doing, trying to reach someone else's level of success, take the joy out of what you want to do. If it's taking the joy out of it, then you got to kind of look at it. Am I still doing the right things? And someone else's standards of success isn't necessarily your standard of success. You know what? You may not reach the peak or pinnacle of what someone else thinks is what it is. And of course, you may be terrible at first, and you may not reach the highest or be the best in the world, but can you be happy? Can you be happy? That's a choice. Do what brings you joy. Do what touches others' lives. Even if you don't get on the front cover of magazines, do you love what you're doing enough to not give up when times get tough? So one of you guys wanted to hear a poem from my new Hollywood book I'm working on. Here's a segment of a poem called Pain of the Pursuit. And this is going to be in my new Hollywood book coming out in 2024. And this is about going after that thing, going after that dreams, even when it's hard. I've found I have no peace and ease if I give up this fight, resign, and settle. Been told my talent's not enough to earn a prize, awards, trophies, or medals. I may be mediocre, but my will insists, it nags me, go on. When building up my inner man, my spirit grows and makes my outer strong. I don't know yet if I'll succeed, but I know with certainty that I must try to press until I've broken through, must try ad nauseam till I die. And still, I see no summit for, beset by obstacles, yet resolute. The pain of letting my dreams die is far worse than the pain of the pursuit. It's not going to be easy. You all need to know it's not going to be easy. You may be terrible at first, but keep going. Keep fighting the good fight. Ecclesiastes 9:11 reminds us, and I returned and I saw under the sun that the race is not to the swift, nor the battle to the strong, nor the bread to the wise, nor riches to man of understanding, nor favor to men of skill, but time and chance happen to them all. What does that mean? Not everyone's going to be number one, right? The Bible talks about how we're all different parts of the body. Someone's the head, some's the eye, some's the nose, some's the mouth. But guess what? Some parts are the keister. Some you're sitting on. Some are the knuckles. You know, we can't all be the rising, shining part of the body of Christ, but we have to be happy with who we are, where we are, and what parts we are contributing. You develop from being terrible to being the best, and still, like this verse in Ecclesiastes showing us, even though you could even become the best, still things may not go the way you assume they will, right? We see that all the time with celebrities, what's the most current one? Matthew Perry passing away. He reached the highest heights and still fell into despair, depression, addiction, you know. Sometimes not we have these grand fantasies about being at the top, but it doesn't always end up being what we think it will be. So can we live a joyful life and be in gratitude and enjoy the journey and not just grasp after the outcome or the destination? You may not even be where God's intended you to be most of the time, but you're getting better. If you're in his perfect will and you're trying to do what he wants you to do, you're going to keep growing. For instance, being terrible at first. I was terrible at acting. Now I'm proficient. I didn't say I was great. I didn't say I was really good. I'm adequate. I can do a decent job. But pursuing acting, even for more than 20 years, it didn't take me to the highest heights. It didn't make me. Sweetie pie, I'm going to pack later. I told you guys last night that I have a live stream, okay? And that I have an interview after this. So I told you we were going to leave at 11. Oh, 10:30. No, I said we were going to leave by 11. Okay. A little miscommunication here. All right. Hey, honey pie. I know you're excited to go. We're going on a birthday trip for Timmy's birthday. So I didn't reach the highest heights, but guess what? Here's where we got to realize God's plans for us are not our plans, right? That scripture that says, I know the thoughts I have for you, for good and not for evil, to give you a future and a hope. We all have a future and a hope. It may not look like what we want it to look like, but if we're being obedient to God, it's going to show us. He's going to show us where he intends for us to be. He says his plans are not our plans. His thoughts are not our thoughts. So if I think about this sometimes, if I had reached, can you please shut my door, you guys? Can you shut my office door, please? We may not reach the highest heights, but listen, if I had become this movie star that I had thought maybe I would be when I moved out here, we all have these big dreams. I thought, I'm going to be the next, I don't know who I was thinking, Julia Roberts or Sandra Bullock or somebody that was popular at the time when I moved out here. If I had done that, I wouldn't have moved into this calling of mine to be a teacher, to be a coach, to write these books. I wouldn't have had time because that movie star life is all consuming. So I can look at it now. So you can look at it a myriad of ways. You can look at it like, I didn't make what I thought. But you know what? That might have not been God's plans for me, right? His thoughts are not our thoughts. His ways are not our ways. His ways are higher than our ways. So you can't look at your situation and be down on yourself because you didn't make some level that somebody thinks that you should do. Okay. Last point. Before you start working on your goals and dreams, you have to realize some people won't like it. Yep. To insecure people, you stepping out on a limb and doing something you love is going to make them feel like they're getting left behind or they're getting left out or they're not doing enough. It's going to shine a light on the fact that they're still in the same place. They're still sitting on the curb talking about all the things they want to do with their buddies, and you no longer have time to sit on the curb anymore and talk about what you want to do because you're actually doing that thing. And that will threaten people because it shines a light on how they're not doing anything. So they're going to try to dissuade you. I remember when I went vegan 19 years ago, I had someone in my life that decided they needed to have an intervention with me. And she was so upset and so concerned. This isn't good for you. I can't believe you're doing this. You are so vain. She said, you're so vain. You're being so selfish. And I was thinking, gosh, I have no idea how me wanting to eat healthier and care for the temple God gave me is vain. And so I'm like looking up the definitions, and vain says to be proud or concerned about your appearance and qualities and achievements and being conceited. I was like, I am the furthest thing from conceited. Any of you guys who know my story, who've read my book, You Are Worthy, know I had such low self-esteem. I was not conceited at all. I didn't even like to look in the mirror. So it wasn't even about that. It was just about, me wanting to be healthy. And then I looked up the definition for selfish, and it says only regarding oneself, only concerned with your own interests and benefits and welfare. I was like, this, I realized I was hurt by what she said, but I realized later, you know what people say to you is only a reflection of who they are. It has to do with what is going on inside them. It's not about you. They're projecting onto you because something you're doing is upsetting them. So I got to be thinking later, her confronting me, it was because she had been overweight her entire life. And sometimes I was her eating buddy. We would like get together and she'd have family-sized bags of peanut M&Ms and Chunky Monkey Haagen-Dazs ice cream. We'd eat this together. We'd go to the fondue place and get hunks of fried meat and bread and dip it in cheese and oil and dip the fruit. Okay, you can put it in your suitcase. And I wasn't gonna. Okay, honey, just set it aside. And I decided I wasn't going to do that with her anymore. And that kind of made her mad. And it kind of shined a light on, oh, now my eating buddy is going to be eating fruits and vegetables instead of the stuff I'm eating. So I say all that because you can be prepared that when people come against you, even people who love you, who don't understand you, you got to be secure in who you are and know why you're doing what you're doing, and not be moved or persuaded by people who are not wanting you to do that. So, make a list of the things that are important to you and have that in front of you. And so when the pressures of life come, you can stick to it. And I just want to say 4 last things. There's going to be dark days ahead of you where you don't know what to do. So don't go through it alone. Get around like-minded friends who are on the same journey with you. Hire a coach, hire an encouragement coach like me or somebody else. Get a mentor. I wouldn't be where I am today if I did not have the mentors and coaches I've had and still do have. And number 3, remember, God is always with you and he will never leave you or forsake you, even if others do. And number 4, you have to be able to be your own friend, to be able to live with yourself. You have to be able to go to sleep at night and not have any regrets and look in the mirror and like who you are. And that's hard for some people. It's hard for the people pleaser in you. You got to kick that people pleaser part of you to the curb and get it out of you. And remind yourself, Acts 5:29, it is necessary to obey God rather than men. In my You Are Worthy advanced course that I'm working on, I have a whole lesson about how to be a God pleaser and not a people pleaser. Here's the thing, you're never going to be satisfied or happy if you give up on your dreams just because people don't like it. Remember that you are going to stand before God one day, and you're going to have to give an account to everything you did in your life. Your talents, did you use them? What did you do with the dreams he put in your heart? Did you pursue them? How were you a witness to others? Did you do the things that you wanted to do? Did you do the things God told you to do? You can't let go, you can't give up, and you can't give in just because some people won't like it. You, my friend, have to become your greatest ally. Some say that I'm rigid now, that I can't be kneaded like dough. They despise how I preserve myself and call me selfish when I say no. I've lost some friends since I won't cave and won't be who they want me to be. And yet, I've gained my greatest ally because I can finally live with me. And that is your charge today. Can you live with yourself? Are you happy with not giving up? Do you realize the moment you step into action, bam, something is going to happen to stop you? Do you realize you get to keep everything you fight for? So what are you fighting for? You realize you're probably going to be terrible at first, but are you going to keep going and practicing long enough to reach that proficiency, to reach that greatness you were called to? And can you move forward knowing that some people won't like it? And be your greatest ally and finally be able to live with yourself. Live true, love hard, and shine bright. We'll see you next week. Oh, next week, great gift. We're going to be interviewing Allison of the Forbes book list winner, Enoughness. So be here next week and learn about the simple truth to embracing you and that you are enough. Right, see you next week. God bless. Bye.